shorts are really good.
He's a ski shorts. Seriously. He's a ski in white tennis shorts.
Is that a statement?
No, it was that and the...
I'd like to call the meeting to order.
wig.
Oh, hold on. Call the meeting to order. Sherry, could you please do roll call?
Here.
Here. Here. I do not believe we have any announcements for this meeting. Citizens' time? Moving right along. We need to appoint a chair and vice chair. I motion to appoint Bob Weir as chair of the Planning Commission. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we need to do a roll call vote, Sherry, or Weir?
Abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
We need to appoint a vice chair. Oh, sorry.
So that does not.
No, it was 2-1.
Yeah, with him abstaining. I make a motion to appoint Rebecca Bear to Vice Chair of the Planning Commission.
Second. Aye.
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 Abstain. Okay. Take over, Bob.
Joy. Faster to make this move.
Chose not to take it.
Entertain a motion to approve the minutes of July 9, 2012.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ellie and I are the only two that can vote on them.
Abstain?
I've got abstain.
Yeah. Hold on. You need to go a little slower with this new system until we get all the kinks out. Bob did.
No, we did.
I didn't motion to approve the minutes.
Said entertain a motion.
Oh. Fine. I motioned.
I second.
Okay.
And Ellie and I both said sure.
Citizens back?
Yes.
We did.
And we're down to number 6.
All right.
See, I got you through half the meeting before I made you start working.
Consider the application, certificate of appropriateness and construction permit for 6770 Sycamore Park Drive. Is the applicant here? 6770 Sycamore Park Drive.
The deck,
Marshall?
They're not here. It's the code section is already referenced on the application. This would be under landscape features or architectural features, and that's 58-15B.
And do we know how tall the deck is? 36 inches more or less?
More than 36 feet. It's way off the ground.
yeah,
Yes,
number
it's,
six.
It's a second floor
Correct.
deck.
Okay.
I motion to approve zoning permit ZP 20120723 according to 5815B.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Reed, there's an attachment to it that says it's going to be 8 feet high in the air.
Okay, I didn't see the height because of the 15 feet out. But okay.
Correct. There are the two standards. Depending on how high you are, it is within
Yeah.
the more restrictive of the two.
Writing's horrible. Go on to Renee Enterprises, 14950 Washington Street, Suite 203, Marshall.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is actually two requests. One is for a new tenant within the Red House Ordinary. It's a office associated with a housing redevelopment buying agency. They've also separately submitted for a hanging sign on the corner of the building above the Arcel Driving School. So the two applications, the first, the zoning permit is under, office use is under 58-177, subsection 9. And the hanging sign would be under our commercial sign ordinance, and that is section 58-343, subsection B3.
Pretty straightforward. Any discussion?
I motion to approve ZP 20120711. I motion to approve according to 58-177-9 and 58-343E3.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on. Sonabank, 6719. Mr. Schneider.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is here this evening, Joyce Harding with Sona Bank, and her, I can show the better half, her husband's with her this evening. There's two requests. One is for a ATM enclosure. We have typically identified this as a secondary entrance sign, which is subject to signs of 4 square feet. They separately submitted for an individual letter sign, which is a separate application the Commission will review. This would be under our industrial ordinance standards, and that's section 58-343B8.
Secondary entrance sign.
I'm sorry, 58-344B8.
Yeah, we discussed that one. It's
I know.
the only thing we can do for it.
In this particular circumstance, given its location, I'd almost consider it a window sign, but
Correct. I think what we had done is with the, for instance, CVS and with Fauquier Bank and with BB&T, there's more or less the drive-through ATMs and things like that. We've typically defined it as a second means with which to do business within the location, so we called it a secondary entrance sign.
I'll live with it. But I'm just concerned that we're going to be. Didn't we prevent BB&T from doing something similar some years back?
We did. We
For
actually
lighting concerns?
what's that?
For backlit lighting concerns?
Correct, and they've separately provided a mounted sign above the ATM enclosure. In this case, we did discuss with the applicant that it cannot be backlit,
Okay.
and so that note has been removed off the plan. There'll still be a light box, and it'll just be disconnected.
So this will be, if approved, this will be an approval with the understanding that it shall not be backlit?
It's not. I would go ahead and suggest that that be attached to the permit in writing. It's already on the schematic that goes with it.
As a condition on the permit?
Chris, I would add that to this application, just so remember. When we're all gone, we can find notes.
The one that you had sitting on top,
Yeah, that's
the
the good
revised kind of.
I'm sorry. I forgot about
This is
that.
because, see, here's the,
We would have to,
this was as submitted.
So, do you have the right one?
yeah, I got that one.
So what's been removed is there was, in the package you had a series of ATM, the types of cards that could be used. That's been removed. This is not to be backlit. There was previously a note on there that says to be backlit and downlit. That's been
Okay,
removed.
so I'll put that with the original packet. In that case, I would entertain a motion on ZP 20120806.
According to 58-343B8, yes. Second, somebody?
One second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I entertain a motion on ZP 20120727 for the individual letter sign.
Is that just 58-348?
Correct. That's our non-conforming sign ordinance.
So
There
moved.
was, sorry, Commissioner Rainey, this was,
I looked at the property last night. I noticed that there are bolt holes in the wall, so I'm assuming there was a sign there. And that as long as the sign doesn't change the nonconformity, that it is okay to do so.
correct, and it's been less than 2 years.
Okay.
There was a separate determination that was requested by the council for the entire shopping center to say that they could continue to use this sign fixture within the parameters that you just described.
Okay, yeah.
Was there a second on that?
Not yet.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Zoning permit ZP 20120717. Mr. Schneider.
This is also a similar request for signage associated with an ATM enclosure. And also a request to increase the size of the individual letter signs on the front of the business. So there's two standards which we will apply. First would be with the individual letter sign would be in these subsections, Mr. Chairman, already written on the application. The letter sign would be subject to 343B5. The secondary entrance sign would be 58343B8.
On this particular application, is this an additional ATM sign that's not currently there?
Correct. This is, right now, they simply just have the ATM enclosure. There's no signage associated with it. So this is to put a fixture and do a wraparound around the ATM.
This is the one they've been toying with
I
and
know.
kept coming back and forth
Kept coming
on,
back
so.
and forth on, but am I misremembering, or was there a proffer or a sign plan condition to the original approval?
It was, the original approval was the secondary entrance, but there wasn't a sign attributed to the ATM at the time. They had the sign attributed to the through lanes above, but there was not a specific restriction on the ATM enclosure.
So does that impact in any way the previous approval, or is it forestalled by that previous approval? In other
This would
words,
simply be a sign approved in addition to, well, there's two things, I'm sorry. The individual letter sign would replace the individual letter sign that's already there, and this would just be a sign provided in addition to those that were approved before.
so it wouldn't impact any previously approved maximums or? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I see what you're saying. No,
Yeah,
it
it doesn't impact sign, a previously approved sign.
There is a standard, if you are more than 75 feet back from the edge of the right-of-way, you are subject to a different overall sign allotment, and in this case, that would not exceed it. We had suggested to them that they increase their individual letters on the front, but I think with the type style that they were using, they wanted to use a smaller one, so they're having a hard time being seen from the road.
Yeah, I took a look at the sign last night. Do we know the size of the lettering of the individual
They
letters?
cannot be higher than 12.
12 inches, but it doesn't say in the application how large the
It
letter
does
is. I don't
say
think,
on the...
Unless I haven't found it.
Yeah,
If you look on the side, it says,
it's got a detail.
yeah, it says on the
1
side,
foot for
it can
the
actually go
inches.
higher because it's distance,
Yeah.
it can go higher, it can only no larger than 15 inches.
Yeah,
And
okay.
here it's 1 foot, if you see on the
Yeah,
side view,
Yeah.
1 feet 3 inches.
okay.
In that case, I would entertain a motion to approve ZP 20120717 in accordance with 58343B5 and 58343B8 of the Town Code.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that takes care of that. ARB update?
They didn't have a meeting.
Okay, that makes that simple.
Excuse me, Chair, are your items with address? Everybody else that's here?
Ours were in A&M.
Okay.
I have the deck on Kennedy residence.
Yeah, you're good to go.
You're good?
Yeah, you're
I
approved.
actually didn't remember the address, so I didn't know what the address was.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
And you're taking care of it as well.
Yeah, so should we just go or stay?
It's up to you. You can
stay here.
You're approved. You can stay if you want
You
to.
can play the reindeer games with us or go home.
I guess we'll go if we can.
Thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry, Chair, I'll make sure we didn't inadvertently miss somebody and have them sit through the whole meeting.
So when is the next ARB meeting this week?
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Council update?
Not really.
Okay. Simple enough. Town planner.
Gene, do you want to go first on the line? You took your line item off.
No, that's okay.
A slew of things to walk through. I'll uncharacteristically be brief. With regards to what the applications we just looked at, we had suggested to the council, staff had suggested to the council, I believe in June, to come back in September with a line item to see if there's a way to move some of these signs and decks and those types to a ministerial process. Because the town council is the zoning administrator, they would have to appoint someone else in that capacity to review these things. ARB, you can't subvert the ARB process. It does have to go through the formal committee, but the idea was some of these that can be done administratively. In the past, the commission was used as kind of in place of a staff member or some other professional staff. So it's kind of a redundancy that we have now. So to make it more efficient, one of the complaints we continue to get is the length of time it takes to get signs and decks approved. So with the comfort level of the council that we know what we're doing, then we would suggest certain applications be done administratively. That will come back to the council in September for review and consideration. It's lining up to be a very busy fall. Rebecca and I had met with, Commissioner Bear and I, and no longer chair bear, I guess, have met several times with the
Yeah.
Haymarket Self-Storage
So what she wanted to meet.
to deal with their unlawful storage of commercial vehicles. They've been given a deadline in November to comply with our ordinances. I did get a phone call from an engineer wanting to give a bid to the landowner. I've not heard back since, so we'll continue to monitor that to make sure that they're moving forward progress. Commissioner Bear and I also met with Haymarket Industrial Park earlier, was it this week? No, last week, last Thursday. They're in kind of a precarious situation given the way they're set back from the road. The owner of that, John Lombardozzi, has tried to go through several iterations of signs to get the signage that's available. There actually was a sign plan that was approved for the building and its tenants. He only chose to implement certain parts of that. So what you've seen is a lot of banners going up on the fences. So we've talked with their options under the existing ordinance. Certainly with the road being relocated as part of the interchange improvements, and also with the expectation that we're going to look at the sign ordinance in the next coming months, there was some suggestion that they may come in with some better. The alternative they have is to do one sign announcing their industrial park, whether it be Haymarket Sportsplex or some other sign. Because the biggest problem right now is a safety issue. People are coming down, having a hard time finding the entrance, and you're having the soccer moms hit the brakes and either turn into Pickle Bob's and can't get into the complex, or they're having to stop on the freeway trying to figure out where to go. So the idea was to do one sign for the complex and then do some individual tenant signs along the gravel lot that's out there. But that would make it very billboard-esque.
Yeah.
Because each one can be 20 feet and be 15 feet high. So that's probably a good precursor to our sign discussion.
And there are 8 businesses that are in that park, so just 8 15-foot high, 20 square feet signs going down.
So I think we would want to look toward, with the review of the sign ordinance, some kind of larger menu sign, not as obtrusive as perhaps the signs for the development across the way. You've seen the ones that have gone up. There's some lesser intensity. So we had offered them the suggestion that they could come back and address the commission about their signage. The biggest issue is just getting their tenants up and running. Next is Sheets. They had vetted, Sheets Corporate had vetted either a rebuild or entire reconstruction of that. They've decided to go with the entire reconstruction, which would basically take out the stormwater pond that's behind them by Pickle Bob's, move the building all the way back to that Leeberry Way, do a 3-sided architecture, collapse the 2 canopies into one, not have it connected to the main building, and have basically double pumps at each. Right now you have 1 pump at each turn or each aisle. They would combine the two. So it does, we've vetted it a couple of times with Sheets. It does meet within our existing ordinances. There will not have to be any exceptions, although there is a special exception process for that. I expect, any day now that they're going to be submitting, it would actually be a site plan amendment. But we're going to ask that because of the special use permit requirement, they're going to have to come through the commission and the council.
Many years ago, they wanted a drive-through. That was a lot of years ago. Are they looking for a drive-through this time around?
No, sir.
Okay.
Now, as with the Haymarket Industrial Park, their issue is also going to be signage. The sign that's out there in the corner right now is subject to a variance that was approved by the council long ago. Probably worth having the town attorney revisit the parameters because there wasn't a lot of it. It was kind of a very broadly braced variance. So they want to lower the sign, but it would still be high. So usually a variance has a very specific structure that's with it. In this case, it was just kind of a blanket you can have it. So we'll probably be revisiting that issue at the same time we look at the site plan. I've also been contacted by McDonald's. They want to reface the building and also add a second, like a pass-through lane or a second drive-through lane. I'll have to show you a graphic, but basically right now when you turn around the curve at the back of the building where you order your meals, they want to do a second one of those behind it. And I guess what they're saying is it used to be a small percentage of their business was through drive-through.
Not anymore.
And that was done to mimic what other competitors were doing. Now they're saying almost 70 to 75% of their business is through drive-through. and they recognize that they're backing up onto Washington Street. It will require interpretation by the council, though, on how we count stacking spaces. Right now, we limit it to a maximum of 6. If we count it from the point where they order their meal, it meets the ordinance. If we count it back from the order from where you pay your money at the window, it exceeds it. So we have this issue of having to deal with the traffic issue and deal with the things. So when that comes in, that'll be an issue that the commission will have to.
Bob, do you know how they came about the entire stacking?
That's why I was calling you, by the way.
It predates me.
Okay.
I don't believe we had any actual stacking requirements or, for lack of a better term, indexes probably until about 7 years ago. We delved into it after,
CVS came through?
when the original application for what became CVS, when the initial application for the Quarles property came through, we had to look into it because we didn't have any provisions in our code regarding stacking at that point in time. And I think we went through VDOT and the recognized engineering standards. I'd have to look at my notes. It's been a long time.
6 seems to be pretty limited. Most have between 10 and 12.
And from a practical standpoint, the cars are going to be there. I'm sure they're past their stacking limit now. What's the enforceability of this? I mean,
I don't disagree, but I think it's usually designed as a minimum rather than a maximum. In this case, we identified it as a maximum. Usually you want a minimum to be able to accommodate a certain percentage of cars and trucks.
They meet their parking standards, should they have to more than exceed their parking for their
Correct.
square footage. So if they come up with some pattern that serpentines them in through that parking lot to get them off of Washington Street,
Well, as I said, I think the one is how the commission wishes to interpret it. If it's back from the first order sign, then it's fine.
right.
Because theoretically, the rest of those spots that they're trying to achieve are past that.
Can you backtrack to the 2 parcels on 15, Quarles and the Haymarket Industrial Park?
Sure.
We still have valid site plans for that area, correct?
For Quarles, for Haymarket Industrial Park, that one on the frontage to 15.
Yeah, that's the one I'm
That's
concerned
still
about. How does this, do either one of these 2 prospective plans impact that dramatically, given that they've already put in a portion of their stormwater controls, and I suspect may or may not be vested?
I'm sorry, which plans affects the Haymarket Industrial?
The plans for Quarles and the ones next to it with the signage on it, sheets and the one next to it.
You're not talking about the Haymarket Industrial Park? You're talking
Yes.
about- You are talking about that.
Is that going to impact how that whole, they've got that design on...
Oh, you're talking about the road improvements. I'm sorry.
Well, no. The actual site plan for the new, quote-unquote, new building that's been on file forever.
Oh, remember they had submitted an application to supersede that plan when Scott Klein was coming in with his landscape business.
Okay.
They paid a fee, they resubmitted, and then we never heard from them again. So there was a one to come
So it's in limbo,
Correct.
and I guess the original application, I'm assuming, is no longer bonded, so
But what we
we're going to have to
sorry.
make a determination.
There's
on
a
that.
separate parcel that separates the sportsplex from 15. So the road next to a la carte catering is an easement. There was a plan on that property for a mixed-use office building. And they built part of that, which is the stormwater pond behind it. So they wanted to come in, and they kept trying to put these interim uses in there. And we finally said, if you're not going to build it, go ahead and supersede it, because every time you want to put a tenant in there, we're having a stumbling block of what about the status. So they had submitted that, and they fully they said, we're never going to build that. But we never got to that stumbling block. So I've actually heard from Mr. O'Grady, who's their Rose's representation. So we may be able to go ahead and knock that out with that. There's some interest in moving some of the tenants from the sportsplex back into the Rose building, but that's going to kick in some parking requirements and some other things.
Anything further?
Yes, I'm sorry, a couple of things. So McDonald's, and they're moving to the east side of town, Pace West. I have not heard back from the county. I know that there was some additional work that needed to be done on the purchase agreement. We were contacted by Mr. Landry's staff They have reached out to an engineering firm. We outlined the development process for them. We've not heard back. So I know that they were on a pretty aggressive timeline, but as of today, we don't have any preliminary plans that are submitted for that. So that will require a rezoning along with a concurrent review of a site plan for that, if it's to be utilized in the way that the new owner wants to use it, or tentative new owner wants to use it. Haymarket Baptist Church has submitted their final site plan. This was in, council issued a zoning determination letter last week about some of their improvements along 55. I expect that they'll have that plan coming back to the commission either September or October.
Could you forward us a copy of that letter, please?
Sure. The zoning determination was on 3 points. It was the building setback for the proposed sanctuary, lot coverage, and then whether or not they had to pay for the streetscape improvements that are being put on front of their property. Haymarket Baptist, already talked about. Villages at Haymarket. This is the 5 housing units that are proposed along Blight Drive. The preliminary plan was approved earlier this year. They have submitted their final plan. So expect to see that in the next couple of months.
Initially, is it substantially in accordance with what was...
It is. There was some, the way some of their easements were lining up, we were setting ourselves up for the same issue we had on the backside. We're dealing with that. We'd also, but they have not submitted their maintenance agreements or their stormwater, or they're going to plant. Part of that plan was to put a buffer on the town side to screen some of those uses. There was an agreement that was supposed to be submitted that hasn't been submitted. If you get a chance to go behind the Iceplex, go and take a look at the Iceplex. They did the rest of their surface parking improvements. They got the islands in. They're holding off on landscaping until the fall. We do have a bond right now for that, so there shouldn't be an issue with them waiting until the fall to plant. However, their expansion plans, they were supposed to enclose the front of the building, which was to have 2 separate, remember it was supposed to be a 2-story addition, so that loading bay.
I thought that got backburnered.
It did, but that's led to a problem where the idea was that the locker trailers and the dual bathrooms would be removed.
Yeah.
It turns out they would like to keep the 2 bathroom trailers. They have 2 locker rooms that have their own bathrooms. They have 2 public restrooms, but one is used for the referees and one is used for female athletes. And so they have continued to use the trailer on the side. We otherwise require a special use permit for office trailers. I don't know that we necessarily define a bathroom trailer, but I had notified had they built the front enclosure, it would have removed the problem. They didn't do that, so I told them they're going to have to come back in with an application if they wish to continue to use that trailer.
Because there's no interior space. The rink goes almost wall to wall, doesn't it?
Correct. And then
Yeah.
right now we have the built locker rooms that they built on the back.
Yeah, okay.
So that will probably be coming to you in the fall for a special exception. Hopefully we're too bored to that discussion. That's all I have right now.
Questions for the planner?
How is the streetscape going? Is I haven't noticed any work going on, but I'm never
The
around.
work that is going on up in front of the church is actually, the gas company is moving, relocating the gas line into the easement that we have on the south side of Washington Street. I think they're just about done with that. It was they were boring under the road and then along Washington Street to get that line out of the way. At this point, there's still a little bit of work left for Verizon to do for the utility relocation. But that's almost done, and then the gas work is almost done. The power company has finished all of its work, so that really will take care of the utility relocation. We looks like we are on track for the RFP to go out. We had what's called an ad date, an advertising date for the RFP as the end of this month. And it looks like we have made that. Our town engineer, Holly, is working with VDOT to go through a few final details on that RFP. But it looks like it will go out at the end of this month. And if that happens, and based on what we understand is the normal process for this, the winner of the bid will likely be able to start starting the construction on the sidewalk and the widening, possibly as early as December. Given the weather of that time of year, it may be a little bit later, but in that time frame.
Anybody else?
Well, actually, I have another question about the Walmart. Wasn't a huge sign approved for that?
Yes.
Did they decide not to do it, or is that still coming?
It's actually up, and
The
it
really
is.
tall one?
Well, interestingly enough, I was pleasantly surprised. I have to go back and measure it. I think it's smaller than the one that they actually got approved. But it's set pretty far back from the road.
Okay.
So when you're at that intersection looking down 55, it's not as intrusive. And with all the landscaping they've put in, it's pretty disguised. Now, they still have the sign that goes up directly on the corner. It's going to be a wraparound sign that they were approved for.
Okay, so that is going there in addition to the two Walmart,
Correct. Two, we call them pylon signs.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
The two pylon signs are up.
So what all is going, there's the Kohl's, there's the Walmart, and then what else is going on in there?
Starbucks is going in there. I inadvertently got an email thinking that they were in Haymarket. They're asking me about the permit process. Chick-fil-A is rumored to be going over there as well. I think a steakhouse, did we ever figure out what it was? One of those, some steakhouse.
It's either Lone Star or Texas Roadhouse.
Wanted to go in. There are separate pad sites that seem to be later ones. The Icon building on the corner,
Yeah, that's sort of weird.
correct. I was talking to Chairman Weir, and I were talking about some of those approvals. Originally, they were supposed to face out. When they brought in the sign plan, they actually reversed the building to face inward. And originally, they were supposed to be landscaping a look along 55 and 15. But what they did was they revised the landscaping plan so that you'll notice the backside of the Icon building doesn't have a whole lot of landscaping in front of it. It's all scattered elsewhere so that you can see the building as you're back in the building. All that, the back of that building will have the brickwork, it'll have some decorative brickwork, but it'll have signs all along the top of that building and then the sign on the corner.
Plus the emergency exit doors.
Yeah, but there's the exit doors, hopefully will be kind of shaded. I guess we'll have to see when the brick goes in. But, so yes, the signage for that development's not done yet.
Okay, and you don't know what's going in to that?
Just the retailer, I said this Starbucks is the only inline retailer I've heard. I don't see where they would put a Chick-fil-A in one of those inline retail units.
Yeah.
There's no drive-throughs approved for that site either, as I recall.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
I remember
Yeah.
them being proffered out.
If you take a look at that little strip, small thing that's being built now, they're starting to frame out inside, and it looks like there's not going to be that many stores in there.
Well, I mean, I was more concerned with the pad sites, and I don't think
Yeah.
their traffic flow is going to accommodate a drive-through either. I don't
Correct.
think
When you drive
I think they were
in-
specifically proffered out, as I recall.
The one on the back, the application further to the west, has the two drive-through pad sites. One was a bank, one was a fast food restaurant. When you drive in that main entrance and look to your right, there's a pad site right there that's going up, half the wall is going up. And there's the Icon building on the corner. And if you drive down to the second entrance into Walmart, as soon as you drive in, there's also a pad site there. But like I said, I don't remember any drive-throughs being a part of that.
I actually specifically recall them being proffered out.
Probably.
Yeah, but we know how that stuff gets changed.
You know how that gets changed, yes.
They're expecting to open around the same time that we have Haymarket Day. They are a corporate sponsor of Haymarket Day.
Just the Walmart?
Walmart.
Or Kohl's as well?
I don't think Kohl's
Walmart is scheduled to open September 12th, and Kohl's is having their soft opening on September 23rd, and their grand opening on the 26th.
I'm sorry. Have you introduced yourself? I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce you.
I'm Carol Ferguson. I work with Supervisor Canley, and I'm taking the Certified Planning Commissioner's class, and I'm supposed to attend somebody else's planning commissioner.
Nice to see you, Carol.
So we've been on our best behavior, we haven't said anything.
Coming later. No.
But the hiring center, the old bank building, I think is closing up for Walmart, and Kohl's was having the hiring center above Giuseppe's. I think they're wrapping up. So,
Induction lighting.
It's just still there until we have other things, so we can keep our advertising cost. And there's only money in the budget for 3 extra planning commission meetings for the entire year. So we just like to have all that stuff grouped together, so,
So we have no update on induction lighting. I'm presuming nothing has changed with the 66 widening and sound walls.
Nothing has changed there.
Okay, which brings us to item C, the comp plan amendments. I'd like us to pick that back up again next month.
correct. We are, and then I'll, if you and I can work on getting those survey questions back out.
Okay.
For your benefit. So the idea was, we're talking about which way to get input from the public, a mass mailing like we did before, or maybe use electronic media like Survey Monkey. The previous survey questions were pretty daunting and somewhat repetitive, so the idea was to try to get some brevity and get more bang for your buck, so to speak. So once we revise those questions, the idea was to go ahead and maybe do a combination of both a mailing and electronic survey, and use that as the basis with which to update some of our chapters in the plan.
Have you made the edits already in that first chapter intro?
We did, you and I combined our I can get those out to you as well. So,
I thought we were just doing the survey. I didn't realize we were doing it combined.
I think we will as well, but there's probably still some interest in doing some of the, maybe a little bit mailing, perhaps, or making it available if someone wants to come in and do it. Not everyone probably in town is going to be up to speed on the internet. So.
East Coast Development?
Okay, this is, to orient you, this was driving out 55 across Old Carolina Bridge. There's the abandoned house that's on the corner that has the medical sign on it. The next house over, actually that building that's boarded up that has a medical office sign was approved for a 3-story office building. The lots behind it, between Heathcote and that property, they've submitted a plan or rezoning to do up to a 6-story office building. And they've asked for modifications of some of their buffer and open space requirements.
This would be in the backyards of the people who live at Piedmont Mews?
Correct. So we had submitted comments, or I had submitted comments on behalf of the town, basically saying, our plan envisions a kind of a low-intensity transition of uses to the north side of town. A 3-story office building could reasonably match, 2-story single-family residences, 6 stories. It's basically trying to put a lot on a very small site. We brought up issues of just massing. They've asked to be able to use some of the open space associated with Piedmont Mews to allow them to reduce their buffers. We had more or less outlined, well, hey, that was meant as a requirement of that development. It seems you can't use that to benefit your development. So to their credit, they actually did respond line by line to all of our issues. We also talked about the road segment, providing some pedestrian connectivity from Heathcote to the bridge when the bridge is expanded. So they at least took the effort to respond to our questions. We'll just have to agree to disagree with them on the scale and massing of that building on such a small lot. Because essentially coming from 15, if all that's to develop as office, you get to Old Carolina, you go from that road to a 6-story building to small single family. There's not really the transition that should be there. I think really they're trying to get the most use out of that property that they can.
Forward a copy of that response as well, please.
Sure.
I know...
I've not responded to their most recent submission, but...
Well, for the most part, their response back was, thank you for your concern. However, they're still going to ask for the 6-foot-tall building, and they're still going to try to get the buffers.
Where in the planning process are they?
This is the second round of review.
Okay, so it doesn't even have a PC hearing date scheduled yet then? Okay.
I mean, they did address concerns like they're not identifying the pedestrian. Because right now, the issue we're going to have with the bridge expansion is how to get from the bridge to the trail system on the other side of Heathcote. So they were not wanting to either identify it, to anticipate when it would be there, or build a section of it. So I think they have come back and agreed to show it on their plans and also build.
But that is identified in the neighboring parcel, correct?
Correct. So what's going to ultimately happen, there's going to be a break between the edge of this property across the open space for Piedmont Mews, because there's actually an open space easement. When you're sitting in the corner of North Carolina and Heathcote, there's a brick, that sign behind that is technically open space for it. So there would be a segment of sidewalk that wouldn't be completed.
Well, how do you think, how responsive would Prince William County be to the residents of that neighborhood who probably will?
Well, the county staff has identified similar concerns about the scale and massing, but they do have the applicant does have the right to request those exceptions from the
Do we know who the planner has been assigned to it?
Mr. Meyer.
Scott Meyer?
I actually identified as Chris, but the guy I've been working with is Mr. Meyer. I'll double check with him. And to their credit, too, they were contacting us asking about the status of our questions.
Just to keep it all, another thing to keep on your radar, I don't know if you're aware of it, the Stonehaven plan, i.e. the southern half of Brentwood, is currently wending its way through the system as part of a study area for a CPAM that didn't get initiated.
This is more by the Nissan?
Yeah, correct. So you don't want to keep your eye out for that and see if you hear anything. Anything else, anybody?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's go. Back to the hot house.
I thought you were allowed air conditioning somewhere else before you went.
Yes, I am allowed air conditioning for a short period of time. Let me get this Sherry. What are we doing?